Hello and welcome to part 2 of our tab menu UI series. In this episode we are going to take on what we made last episode and make things look a little bit better, making the buttons look like they look nice with the hovered effects and basically make it general look a bit more polished. So let's jump in straight away. Okay, so here we have our menu setup that we worked on last time. In this episode we're going to make things look a little bit prettier. So first thing I'm going to do is edit my tab menu buttons. Go to tab menu and I'm going to change the design of our buttons. So what I'm going to do in here is in my tab button here is the tab button is a singular panel, so it can only contain one item. However, that item can also contain other items. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my button text here and wrap with an overlay. In this overlay I want to fill up the available space inside the entire button. I'm going to click on the fill and fill. When you change that, you're going to see there's still with some padding here, and that's because by default the buttons have padding based upon their style. So we're going to go to our tab button here and we're going to change their normal padding here to 0 and our press padding to 0 as well. Okay, hit compile and that'll clean up for you. Okay, so I still want the text to be in the center, so I'm going to click on my text block and I'm going to choose center. However, in my overlay, I'm going to put a nice little border at the bottom here to highlight when I've got it overlapped. So I'm going to go to border, drag it into my overlay. You can use an image if you like, totally up to you. And on this border here, I'm going to drag it to the bottom. So I'm going to vertically align it to the bottom. And I'm going to stretch it across the horizontal, like so. And I'm going to go and change my button here to have no background on it. So let's go to background color and change that to have an alpha of 0. So basically got an underline happening on your text here. I'm going to give it a little bit more space, so I'm going to go to my text and add a bit of spacing here. Go to padding, do 10, 10. There we are. We'll change the font size a little bit too, so go to font and change that down to like 18. And we're good to go. Okay, so that is our style for our tab. Now, if I was to highlight this, what would I want to have to do different? I want the bottom underline text here to change color. So what I'm going to do is go to my border, that is the underline here, and make it is variable. And I'm going to change this to use a different name. We're going to do underline border. That's the first bit. The next thing I'm going to do is I actually want to change the highlight of the whole entire button. The button here has an alpha on its normal, so it's completely see-through. But when I've hovered over it, I want the hovered to take over. So to design this is quite difficult because you can't test hover easily in your widget designer here. So what I'd recommend doing is you design your hovered inside the normal, and then you can copy it over into your hovered once you're happy with it. So to see this working, before we carry on, we have to make the background color visible. So we just change that to 1. And we're going to change the background material here. So we're going to go to our material editor and create a material. I'm going to call this one tab button hover. And open this up. And what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to make a linear gradient. Gradient, and I want this one to use a vertical gradient on the linear. That would be the V. Okay, and what this does, if we plug it into base color, it does a very simple linear gradient like this. Okay, now I want to change this to use a UI mode, so I'm going to go select this main node here, go down to material domain, and change it from surface to user interface. Plug that back into final color. And I also want to take advantage of the opacity of this too. So I'm going to go to opaque and change that to translucent. And what I'm going to do is plug in the same node into opacity there. Now this may be a bit too strong down here. So we can tweak that as well further. If we take this opacity line that we've got going on here and just multiply this by a fraction. So we do like 0.6 for example. Yeah, we'll get a lot more subtle. And you can adjust that as you want later on. Now I'm going to leave it white because that means I can tint it quite freely to make it any color I like as well. So it's a good idea when you're making these sorts of materials to leave them as white. Okay, so next I'm going to go back to my tab menu button. I'm going to go back to my button. And as I said, we're going to design it in the normal here first and then take it over into the hovered. So on the normal, we're going to go to image and we're going to go and select our tab and button hover. Okay, so we get this effect where it looks like it's sort of radiating out of the underline a little bit. Okay. Excellent. Okay, cool. Next we're going to make it so it looks maybe a bit circular in its design, so it doesn't like have a harsh cutoff point. I think that'd be quite nice. Actually, no. Well, it's up to you. Like, let me know in the comments below what kind of styles and designs you want me to show you. But I want to leave this as is. Actually, I think that's for time's sakes. Okay. So there is our design for our hovered approach there. As I said, we can change the color of this as we see fit because it's a white color. So if I go down to tint here, I can change that to any color I like here. That's fine. And in fact, let's make it some sort of orange color. And once I've got a happy color here, I'm going to take the color pin here and just drag that to my top here. This allows me to save it for later use. But then what I'm going to also do is make my border also that color. So it's going to look like this. Okay. So once you've got an idea of what you want things to look like, we need to take our style. So we go to the tab button, go to style for normal. We're going to right click on it and do copy. And on hovered, we're going to go paste. And again on pressed, paste. If you want the press to look slightly different, you can do, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. And then when you're happy with that, you can go to normal here and just clear this out, and then just change the normal design here tint to 0 in the alpha, and then make it disappear. Now this border we want to change also back, so we're going to go to underline border here and change the brush color back to white. Okay, so we're back to default on its design. So if I go to the tab button now, the hovered is going to change its appearance here, but it's not going to change the border. So if we go down on our button and find the on hovered and click on hovered, we're going to take our border, which is our underline border here. If you don't see it here, that's because you didn't tick it as variable. Make sure you have got that ticked. And in here, we're going to do set. What was it called? Let's take a look. Brush color. So on here, I'm going to do set brush color. Plug that in. Okay, and we're going to click on the little color node and then we'll choose my pre-saved color. Now, when I unhover it, I'm going to change it back to white. So let's go back to our button, do unhovered, and I'm going to copy and paste this bit down here and just change that to white instead. There you go. File and save that. So that's our button done here. I'm going to go back to my main menu. There it is. Let's just change these texts here on the other side. So I'm going to click on both of them at the same time because I'm going to edit both of them. I'm going to change their size here to be a lot smaller. So I'm going to go down to like 12. And I'm going to make it vertically aligned in the middle. I'm going to bring it down there. I'm going to change their color opacity to more of a grey color. So it's sort of like grayed out a little bit. And I'm going to add some padding around it too. So I'm just going to go to the left and add padding here of say 10. And on the right here have a padding of 10 as well. Okay, so we've got a little bit of padding between it and the background here. Okay, so next I'm going to cover the whole entire menu here with a sort of faded blur. So I'm going to go to my canvas panel here and add a border to this. And drag that in. And I'm going to make that fill up the whole entire space. So we go to anchors. Remember, Control and Shift. Click this bottom one. And away it goes. And so at the moment this is covering the whole entire thing, which we don't really want. We want to drag that above everything else. Like so. Okay, and I'm going to change the color of the border. Change the color of the border brush color. And change it down to black. I'm going to change the alpha here to a lot lower. So let's go 0.2 for example. And then I'm going to add a blur so we get a nice blurred background on our image. Search for blur. Put that to my border. And on the blur, you want to go over to the right and you'll see blur strength. Change it to 5. Okay, so there is our nicely designed menu. Hit compile and save this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make this appear on the screen. So let's go back to our main menu here. And we're going to go to the level blueprint. You can just in the level blueprint, the game mode, player controller, up to you where you want to put it. This type of menu. For the time's sake, I'm just going to put in the level blueprint. And we're going to do create widget. And we're going to add the main menu. And just promote that to variable. No, not promote to variable, sorry. Add to viewport. That's what I want. Add to viewport. There we go. File and save this. Now we also want to make sure we can see the mouse cursor when we're doing this. So we're going to get the player controller. And from there we're going to do set show mouse cursor and make that true. And we're also going to change our input mode to UI only. Set input mode to UI only. It's going to ask for a widget to focus, and what we're going to do is just drag our return value from our create menu, main menu widget and put it into our in widget to focus. Okay, so let's test that out. So there's my menu, and if I hover over it, you can see I can highlight each one. That's fine. And there we have it. We've now got a nicer looking menu ready for us to start making it work. And so the next episode, we're going to go through and create the tab menu work with a controller so that we can use the left bumper and right bumper on an Xbox controller to navigate between different tab menu options. You can watch that next episode right now over on patreon.com/Ryan Laley, where you can catch all my videos early from just $1 a month. As a thank you to all my patrons and YouTube members for their continued support. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you all next time. Bye everyone.